Oh, I went out to the desert. We went out riding.
Yeah.
That was last weekend. Yeah, go learn. That's a good time to get out of here. One of the only times. Well, maybe I won't run the gavel tonight because it's a pretty quiet crew. Like,
I don't know, back there.
Own it, be proud.
but I will go with the gavel between you and Bart if you don't settle down, or if anyone votes against this holiday thing. I'm gonna bring out the gavel if it gets too rowdy. All right, there it is, 6 o'clock. All right, let's go ahead and bring our Riverdale City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 to order. Please let the record show that all council members are present. Councilor Hanson is joining via phone. We also have members of the city staff here. We do not have any members of the public. I've asked Councilor Hilton to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Hilton. We'll now have a moment of silence. During that time, we ask that you keep in mind our first responders, especially as they are out protecting the residents of our city as well as the surrounding cities as they come to our city. We also ask that you might keep the leaders of our country and the world leaders in mind, that they might be able to peacefully resolve the conflicts that they're involved in. And we also ask that you keep the members of the city council in mind as we make decisions this evening. Thank you. We now have a time for public comment. This is an opportunity to address the City Council regarding your concerns or ideas. No action will be taken. Please state your name and address and limit your comment to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations or reports. I have just a couple of things. I mentioned that I was at the sewer district meeting this last week, and unfortunately, this is just more of a heads up for everybody. Not really something to discuss, but they are planning on raising rates, and yeah, that's not really a surprise. Also, I was at a meeting with about the transfer station, a solid waste meeting. They're planning on raising rates as well. The hauler that hauls the trash away is asking for an increase because of fuel costs, which you can imagine. They said that they have 22 to 25 trucks a day that drive out to Tooele. Each truck has 65,000 pounds of trash on it, so that's a lot of garbage going out of there. So those are things we're just going to have to plan on. Also, kind of a cool thing, I was at WACOG last night, and we were discussing affordable housing, and they did a presentation, and there's only 3 cities in the county that provide an appropriate amount of affordable housing based on their residents and their percentage of the county, and it's us and Washington Terrace and Ogden.
Yeah,
and so I was kind of surprised by that and kind of happy. Everybody kind of held us up as, you know, those 3 cities are doing their part, because that's a big concern we hear, is that cities aren't doing their part, and sometimes people are quick to point the finger at Riverdale and say, you guys aren't doing your part, but we actually are doing our part for affordable housing. So that made me pretty happy and pretty proud that we're doing that, and hopefully we can continue to try to do that as we go forward. But and that's all I had for Mayor's report. We don't have any reports from the council, so we'll move on to consent items. We'll start with consent item number 1, consideration to approve the meeting minutes from the March 15th council work session and council meeting. Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve. Counselor Arnold.
Move to approve meeting minutes from the previous meetings of March 15th, 2022.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, looks like that's unanimous. We'll move on to consent item number 2. Consideration to set a public hearing for annexation petition request for property located at approximately 4450 South Cozydale Drive. Mr. Eggett.
Just as noted in the work session, it's this is required by state code to set a public hearing to consider the request on the petition for the America First property as noted. At that point, the 30-day protest period will have been completed, and we can move on to the next step, which would be to set that. So the next available date would be that April 19th date, and with that, I would defer as you see fit.
Any questions or comments on the request to set a public hearing? Seeing none, a motion to approve that public hearing would be in order.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously as well. We'll move on to action item number 1, consideration of resolution 2022-12, amending personnel policies handbook, policy 9-3, bereavement leave, and policy 9-12, paid holidays. Ms. Como.
So I'm asking you to amend our personnel policy based on the legislation that was passed in this last session with the state. So the first one would be the bereavement leave amendment. I included in the packet a copy of the bill that was passed, and there is a section in there that says the governing body of each municipality shall, by ordinance or resolution, provide for at least 3 workdays of paid bereavement leave for an employee. So by state law, we have to do this, and I'm asking you to approve an amendment to our policy in the personnel handbook. Policy 9-12, the Juneteenth National Freedom Day, was passed in the legislative session to make that a state holiday. It does list, I know I'm just bringing this up because Braden kind of had some questions, I think. In the actual bill itself, it does say that if June 19th is on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, the Juneteenth National Freedom Day holiday is on the immediately preceding Monday. If June 19th is on a Saturday or Sunday, the Juneteenth National Freedom Day holiday is on the immediately following Monday. So it would be June 20th this year because the 19th is a Sunday. So do you have any questions about either one of these amendments?
If there's no question, or is that a question or a?
No, well, it's a comment.
Okay, a comment.
This is crazy,
Counselor Arnold.
because it's a partner, like a former partner. The way it's written,
I saw that.
like my ex-wife, who's old, who's not going to have any kids, but if my ex-wife had a miscarriage, I get 3 days of bereavement. It's
Only
crazy.
if the child is yours.
No. The second if is if it's a partner. The third if is if it's mine.
You're right.
It's nuts. This thing is crazy because if you were wild and crazy and had partners, and you have a partner that you said, I dated so and so and she just had a miscarriage, you get bereavement. It's crazy. Somebody should be fighting this thing, and I know we have to pass it because it's state law, and I'm not at you by any means.
Because the governor did sign this.
Totally, I know you totally understand, and I hope you understand that I understand what position you're in, but this is just crazy. And I think of like the police, fire, anybody that's like, hey, I get at least 3 days is the wording of this thing. So, if you're just totally messed up that your ex-wife had a miscarriage, it's nuts. So if anybody else have anything to say?
Here, here.
And I would move to approve, and I'm so frustrated, I lost my place. So I move to approve Resolution 2022-12 as stated within the packet.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any?
Can I jump in here, Braden?
Yeah.
Just really quick. And the reason I bring this up is there's a type error in there in the therefore paragraph. And that's why, because we'll need the amendment on your motion, where it refers to 9-3 bereavement leave, and it should be 9-12, not 9-2. And I have the corrected form. Michelle's got that for you to sign, but we missed that one. So
Oh, motion agrees.
A motion agrees, second agrees?
Agrees.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Barrow?
Aye.
Counselor Arnold?
Aye.
Counselor Hanson?
Aye.
Counselor Hilton?
Aye.
And Counselor Stevens?
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes with 4 voting in favor and 1 voting against.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
We will now move on to comments. Are there any comments from the city council? All right, any comments from the city staff?
You know, I wasn't going to do this, but since Chief Shawley's here, I might just have him come up and tell us. He doesn't know this is even coming, but he received a grant last week. Maybe just come up and briefly tell him a little bit about that. I like to commend these guys when they find free money for us. So just come up and tell us a little bit about it, Chief, if you don't mind.
Much, but it's enough.
Every bit counts.
We got a Rocky Mountain Power Grant awarded to us, and what I put in for was to help cover EMS expenses. With COVID, we've supplied masks and equipment and different things throughout the city to different departments, including ours, and the impact that it's had on our supply account has been pretty heavy. So they afforded us $3,500 to help offset some of that cost that we occurred during the last year through COVID, which hopefully we're slowing down on that realm. But yeah, cool. We got.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Chief.
Very well done. That's weird, it's from Rocky Mountain Power, but
Yeah. Anytime it's not our money, I like those things.
Whatever.
In fact, just today, we received another one down here through the court from the AOC. Amazingly, they take all that money from us and they give us this little piddly amount back. But we were able to install, I think, 5 buzzers upstairs and an additional 4 or 5 down here. That buzzer that's up there for emergency purposes hasn't worked for a couple years. That's all been upgraded. It's all electronic now. We have downstairs covered and upstairs covered all over the place, and most of that was covered by that grant. I think we ended up picking up about 100, maybe 200 of that. So we're completely updated and working efficiently. Hopefully it all works, but it's all wireless. It's way better than our old system. So, and that one was another freebie. So we like those things. They might be little, but they're a big deal that we don't think about. A lot of times we're able to do some of those little things that we need really bad. So
Do you want to enhance what the buzzer is in this meeting?
they're panic buttons is what they are. So if we had an emergency here, I think it's right between you guys, Steve and Bart. There's a button underneath there.
Oh,
it's underneath.
Yeah. Now that may be removed now because
Even though it
that was an old one. That was a hard wire, and they have these little black push button
Might
things
be
now.
closer to Bart.
Oh, is
Because
this
I would
it?
almost push it when I was sitting there.
That thing?
No, that's the partition.
They could have
Well, the-
pulled that out today, but
Maybe it's
we
gone.
do have coverage now. Yeah, because it's not hardwired anymore. So
We don't want to push
It's right
it.
here.
So
is it there?
Yeah.
I need to know where it's
It
at.
goes to our alarm system
Right
now.
here.
So
Well, there's
if
a little black box with a button on
With
it,
buttons
right?
on it.
I don't want to touch it.
that's probably what it is.
Okay.
Because we have it there for the judge while it's during court or for the council. So if something happens here, that goes to the alarm company, and then they get a hold of our police department immediately. So that's all been upgraded and should be working. It was as this morning anyway. So it hasn't been for a long time. I've been a little bit nervous about that one, so I was relieved to get that done.
Well, I could
Good to
try it
know.
again. No, I'm just kidding.
What's that?
I could try it again if you want.
We'll wait on that one. We like that when we get that free money. So
Good.
And my only comment had to do a little bit with free money too. WACOG last night, they talked about the next round of grant funding for transportation projects is getting ready to come around. I think June 6th is the deadline for to get money from the county and some of those road funds that they disperse. And I was a little disappointed on the last round. As I sat in, we didn't get any of the transportation funds. And then I sat in the next week and we didn't get any of the ramp funds either. And so I'm glad to see Chief Shawley getting after some of that money and a different source, but some of that free money, I feel like it's out there. And I know we've had a hard go at getting some of it, but it's probably still worth taking a swing at some of it occasionally. So,
You told me that. I filled out the paperwork.
yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, it's just, I have a hard time sitting there in those meetings and watching, 500,000 go to the terrace to upgrade Romer Park and, North Ogden and West Haven and Uena and just down the line, I think there was $5 million they gave out and we didn't get any. And, and there was the same thing a few months earlier with the transportation funds. West Haven just got, 1.7 million for this road upgrade and just really gave out a lot of money. And so, but that's coming up already. The process starts now to get those awards next December and January. So, and that was more just something for the city staff that we can try to work on. Yeah. And then department head would be great. With nothing else, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. This meeting is adjourned. 22, please let the record show that all board members are present, with board member Hanson joining us via phone. We also have members of the city staff here with us. With no members of the public here, we will skip the public comment portion. We'll move on to presentations and reports. Item number 1, we're going to skip that item as well, and that means we can move on to item number F, comments. Are there any comments for the RDA meeting? Oh yeah, let's move up, go to the consent items. Got a little excited there. So we'll go back to item D, consent items, and that's consideration of the meeting minutes from March 15th. Any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve would be in order. Councilor Arnold.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Now we'll move to comments, item number F. Seeing none, we need a motion to adjourn. Comment from board member Stevens.
Can you enlighten a little more detail of what they were talking about, of why this went sideways?
It didn't necessarily go sideways. It's just that we thought that there was funding available that is not available in that
In the RDA?
RDA. Yeah.
How much, what are they asking for?
It kind of depends on how detailed it gets. It's between 300 and 400,000. And when we had initially met with them, we were under the impression that there was almost 1.2 million in there. So we felt pretty comfortable we were going to be able to help. But
So it's if I read it correctly, it's basically just to take down the old building, or is that just a?
it's a lot of stuff. Demo is part of it. There's a number of things in there.
Okay, and so now that RDA has already been triggered,
Yeah.
and now you're saying you're learning it's almost depleted? Is that how I'm reading that?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because when Larry started purchasing those houses there at the time, I don't think we had a lot of tax increments, so he used the housing fund monies to purchase those, and that's kind of been sitting there on the
I
books.
don't know
But
what that means.
so there were all those houses back up there behind the donut place and everything. Well, we didn't have the tax increment money to buy them out at the time, but we did have a big chunk of housing funds available, which you can borrow from funds, but they have to be paid back. And so that's what Larry did. He borrowed from the housing fund to pay for those, and Roger continued that. Well, we were unaware of that. We just assumed that had been taken out of the RDA funds, but it wasn't. And so now we have to pay those back. So it pretty much depletes what was left in that RDA to pay the housing fund back. So we've got to find other sources or other means to. It's kind of weird, and we're not exactly sure how we're going to do it. We're hoping maybe we can pull some of those housing funds back, depending on what happens there. There may be a way of doing that, but that's where we need the RDA's attorney's expertise on that, so we don't do something illegal.
Do we still still own those where the houses were?
Actually, that was the part that Larry H. Miller picked up as part of the partnership there. And that will be developed. We were on the phone today with them as well. I mean, it's a pretty complicated deal, but we're thinking we might be able to pull something off and maybe move some of those and do it legally. But we don't know yet. That's why we got to sit down and meet. Like I said, this was just laid on us today.
By
Cody.
our Cody.
Right. When because he's aware of that. He knew that where those funds had been borrowed from, we didn't have any idea that had come out of there, or nor that it had to be paid back. On the books, just if you looked at the books, it shows that money's there. And that's why we had proceeded with that assumption.
Okay, now that
Does that help you out?
Yeah, that just connected the dot.
Yeah. I think we can still pull something off, but it's gonna be interesting. But we want to do it right and legal, so.
Okay, so what, they're on a timeline with, now,
It's not just them, Bart. I mean, because we got the Paris building and the Farmers building right now that are looking at doing things. And so the idea is that we used RDA funds to help both of them in whatever ways and means and stuff like that. So it won't just be the Farmers building, it will be Paris as well. And even if we are able to punch that road through there, that was one of the main things we wanted. And we would probably have to pay for that because that's something we're requesting, a little road back behind all of them. And that may not happen now. That's why we're really kind of concerned about that, because that was a big deal to us. So
okay, now, is Paris still owned by Paris?
No.
Or, the guy from Park City, or did Katrubis buy it, or Hanson?
no, it's a different owner, different developer. And that's what's moving too. So
Okay, Hanson didn't buy that then?
no. But he's still involved in this because he's got the piece on the corner and the piece behind it. Well, he represents Larry H. Miller on those things. So that's why we were on the phone with him today, because we've got to see what we can move. It's a shell game right now. That's the way we see it. So
All right, that's all.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. We're adjourned. Hey.